All right, A pushers. It's me, Mr. B, APUS History, coming at you with those notes and knowledge, everything you need. This is part two of European exploration, colonization, interaction with Native Americans. Oh, yeah. We're going to start off with a quote from John Winthrop, a model of Christian charity, isn't he, though? For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all the people are upon us, so that if we should deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. Preach. Preach. All right, straight to those knowledge and notes. Let's go. New England, Neo-European colony. It's new. It's England, Neo-European colony, New England. All right, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 1620. Massachusetts Bay Colony, founded by families seeking to create well-organized Protestant communities. These are the Pilgrims. They created a holy commonwealth. They're religious separatists who left England. They were led by William Bradford. They sailed to America aboard the boat called the Mayflower, creating a self-governing religious congressional charter called the Mayflower Compact. They were followed in the next 10 years by a much larger group called the Puritans, who came to America in 1630. These were Protestants who did not separate from the Church of England, so they were unlike the Pilgrims, who were separatists, but they did separate from the Church of England, but they wanted to purify it, and so they fled to America to practice their religion free from persecution. They were led by John Winthrop, who was the guy who gave that speech. He wanted to create a, quote, city upon a hill, a reformed Christian society, a perfect society of visible saints. Another famous preacher in Massachusetts was John Cotton. It was a joint stock company, much like Virginia was a joint stock corporation, which is an agreement that allows investors to pool their resources so that no one has to take the hit if it completely fails. They organized their representative in town hall meetings. They had governors, a council, and assembly, but the vote was limited to adult male church members, and they also collected taxes, so it was state-sponsored religion. It was a theocracy. There was no religious freedom. The religious leaders were the civil leaders, and the civil leaders were the religious leaders, and God's law was the state law. Congressionalists that practiced or embraced predestination. Predestination is a word that means it's the idea that God only saved a chosen few, and the Puritans were the chosen few. They knew they were the chosen few because they had conversion experiences, which is a personal encounter with God who reveals those who are saved. So you're deep in prayer, and God tells you, you are one of the ones going to heaven, and everyone else, too bad, so sad. All right, Roger Williams. Roger Williams was a Puritan. He advocated toleration, and because he advocated religious toleration, he was banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1636 and founded the colony of Rhode Island for religious dissenters. So he had to go in someplace else. Rhode Island had freedom of religion, which was way different than Massachusetts. Anne Hutchinson was a Puritan who was also banished from Massachusetts to Rhode Island for preaching to women and men that God revealed divine truth to believers. This did not align fully with the Puritan beliefs of the Massachusetts Bay leaders, and she was banished to Rhode Island. Many consider her to be an early feminist for standing up for what she believed in and standing up for women. Other Puritan groups founded the colony of Connecticut because the Massachusetts Bay Colony was becoming so successful that they were running out of land and running out of space, so they branched off and created Connecticut. When they did this, it was a very orderly settlement. They wrote up a constitution called the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. It's considered the first written constitution in 1639, which is written constitutions become very important in the history of the United States. There's a Puritan Revolution in England in 1649. They create a short-lived commonwealth, which was replaced by the monarchy. We're not going to get into too much detail on that because it's really not that important. But it does have an impact on the colonies. And that's why we mention it. Puritanism and witchcraft. In 1692, in Salem, Massachusetts, there is a anti-witch hysteria going crazy. Everyone's accusing everyone of being witches. 19 people end up being executed in the Salem witch trials. Eventually, Enlightenment ideals of reason replace early religious superstitions, and the witch trials come to an end. Yeoman society. The Massachusetts Bay Colony and all the Puritans are practicing yeoman or subsistence farming, which is self-sufficient family farms where everyone's just growing enough food for their family to survive and trading for the little extra things that they need. The other characteristic is town hall meetings where they meet together to make decisions, and this opens up a whole new world of opportunity for tons of people. Instability, war, and rebellion. All this success of the colony leads to, if you're a yeoman farmer, you still need land, and as the population is growing by natural increase and increased immigration, the demand for land continues to push people to move west, and as they move west, they come into conflict with the Native Americans. So just like Virginia got into a conflict with the Powhatans, the New Englanders get into a war with the Pequots. And other Native American groups as well. So we got the Puritan Pequot War of 1637. The Puritans kill the Pequots. They consider the Indians as savages who are not predestined to go to heaven. They have limited attempts to Christianize the natives. They try to set up these things called praying towns, but they do not want to intermingle with the natives. So they're not inviting the natives to come live with them in any way. They're like, hey, if you want to practice Christianity, you can, but you still got to be way separate from us because we don't really like you. So they keep them completely separate. The next conflict is called King Philip's War or Metacom's War. It's mostly known as King Philip's War, but Metacom and King Philip are the same person. So Metacom is his Indian name, and King Philip is kind of like what the British people called him. Metacom unites a couple of Native American tribes in an attempt to kill all the colonists in Massachusetts, but it's too little too late. The war ended when natives ran out of gunpowder, and the Massachusetts government hired other natives to kill Metacom and sold him and his family into slavery. Well, they killed him and then sold his family into slavery, which was a nice religious thing to do. But yeah. All right, and our last part of our notes today, we got a real short set of notes, is Bacon's Rebellion. So now we're switching back to the southern colonies, back to Jamestown, Virginia, to talk about Nathaniel Bacon. In 1675, former indentured servants and yeoman farmers are angry because they can't afford land. They don't have the right to vote. There's political corruption and taxation is high, combined with falling tobacco prices. So they're poor, they're angry. This caused them to rebel against William Berkeley, who was the governor of Virginia. There's a frontier war going on. The poor farmers want the land that had been given by the government to the natives. They attack the natives, starting a war with the natives, which makes the government angry. Nathaniel Bacon, former indentured servant himself, led the angry yeoman farmers and servants. They burned Jamestown to the ground, but then he died and the rebellion was squashed. Virginia planners accelerated the shift away from indentured service. This Bacon's Rebellion was a turning point in labor in the southern colonies, as indentured servitude was replaced with imported African slaves. So this is slaves were first brought to Virginia in 1619, but it's not until after 1675 that indentured servitude gets replaced by slavery as the dominant labor force in the plantation colonies. All right, A-Pushers, that is already to the end of Chapter 2. Until next time, this is Mr. B History. Peace.